Recruit, yes. But you ever found a Star Trek fan where you least expect already? Today on Trekland Tuesdays Live, number 406. Boom. With me, Dr. Trek, Larry Nemecek, coming at you here from the heart of Trekland. Hey, and it's the heart of Portal 47. And yes, TreklandTreks.com, your customized away mission here in Southern California for true real life Star Trek shooting sites off the stages. So many, there's over 50. Get in touch with me, LarryNemecek.com or TreklandTreks.com. We will fix you up for the summer season. And here we are. It's another Tuesday, hopefully, for some sanity, clarity, and a bigger picture in all things Star Trek. And yes, it's a summer here where the news is slow in Trek world. No absence of news in the real world, but Trekland is part of the real world. It's kind of interesting time in Trek. We knew this was coming and now we're living through it. It's not to say that it's not an extremely interesting time in the world at large. And who was it that said, may you live in interesting times? Or may you not live in interesting times? What was that? But it's July 1st. We're starting a new month. The Americans are going to be celebrating their independence. Canada Day is happening, right? And just like the first day of Star Trek, Canada beat us to it. Different years, though. We beat you to it in years. And now, 250 years, we made a big deal out of the bicentennial in 76. Oh my gosh, was the bicentennial big thing. A year before Star Wars, people marketed the hell out of the bicentennial. By the time people had been celebrating for 4 years with bicentennial stuff, bicentennial toilet paper, bicentennial this, bicentennial band-aids, bicentennial whatever, bicentennial graduation announcements. The class of 76 was so sick, they rejected they went with the one plain design. At my high school, go Bears, this class of 76 were so sick of everything bicentennial after 3 and 4 years that they rejected all the 4 different options and went with the plain one for the class of 76. Left my class to say we were the first class of America's 3rd century. And there's your marketing already going. No. Next year will be the 250th. Nothing happening. I just don't think. We'll see what a year does to us. I just don't feel like Americans are in a very party mood right now. Which is interesting because we are looking at our Star Trek and wanting to party hardy, just as Star Trek gears down, right? And I say that because we've been talking all year about how we were talking every week there for a couple of years with peak Star Trek, peak TV, and Star Trek's part of the big piss. We're all sitting around. The needle, the tea leaves are looking like the Skydance purchase, merger, whatever, of Paramount Global is going to happen as expected. Still waiting for all the melodrama behind that. We've been talking about it all summer because there's nothing else to talk about with Star Trek except the little promotional dribbles that dribble out. But we are in the debut month finally for Strange New Worlds, season 4, with a season 3 with a season 4 to film, and then 6 episodes. Once again, you celebrate it rather than kill a show and mourn and protest afterwards. They end a show so you can celebrate it, but it's still canceled. So they'll get the 5 seasons. That's now the custom of 10 episode streaming seasons. In any case, we're waiting on that. July 17th, we're waiting on Strange New Worlds. Academy apparently won't be out till next year. So here we are, gang. We are watching the tea leaves, watching the meager headlines. Good to see everybody champing in here. Here's all I want to say this week, in admittedly a time of, the biggest headline of the week is that we're turning the calendar in Trekland. There's lots of other crap happening in the world. You know what I'm talking about. Even some of it, as we've been saying, affects the future of Star Trek and the movies and Paramount. But here's a little ray of sunshine for you. So yes, we were gone 11 days, which is insane. And you know what? Again, had a blast at SoonerCon. Just to give you an idea, SoonerCon 33. They've cut back a little. See, um, on the badge, porn. It simplified things and all of that, but still an awesome time. Biggest SoonerCon ever. They're right at about 3,000 folks, so that gives you an idea. But two Trek actors, Garrett and Ethan Phillips, original Ethan, I should say. Great weekend, great con. And, we talked about sci-fi and Star Trek. And I talked about a lot of things I've been talking here with people who aren't privy to our audience. They're not well, we had Portales. We had a Portales Portal 47 live dive. It was great to see our members live, meet some of them for the first time, even. And, did all the things and did the regular panels and did something. We did a State of the Trek. And I could tell that we're generally pretty savvy with not only the content of our shows, but the content of the culture that makes the shows, right? And that we talk about here every week, that I talk about with our Ask Dr. Trek roundtables with the Portales. And I talk when I'm a guest on other podcasts and such. And by the way, speaking of other podcasts, Genealogy, a fellow Roddenberry podcast to the Trek Files, has a show talking about DeForest Kelley's pre-Star Trek run-ins with Gene, including the pilot 333 Montgomery, and a couple of other episodes that he guest starred in, and talking about the Gene and Dee relationship, Gene Rodden and DeForest Kelley. So I urge you to go over and take a listen to that. I was honored to be that. And I think Chris, the Transporter Rooms podcast, I was a guest on recently too, and it's out there. So yeah, we're all kind of talking and rewatching and doing that for lack of headlines. But something funny happened this week. We had several extra days back home, and I had some fun but business and meetups to do concerning Route 66, which the Route 66 Centennial is next year, 1926 to 2026. And aside from being awesome and fun, America's highway, and at a time when we may find all these artificial divisions between us and we forget how common we are, one of the most common bonds we have is let's hit the open road and go see the sights, go have an adventure, go see America, the scenic, the good, and yeah, the nostalgic and retro. And we have a plan for next year happening. But what doubles this up for me and a lot of people is that as of the 50s, Route 66 was christened the Will Rogers Highway. So there you go. Claremore is on 66. Santa Monica and the Palisades, where the ranch was, the property still is, as we figure out what to do post fires. But there's a lot of Will Rogers interwoven with 66. It's part of it. And we had a meetup there. And then I got to meet up with folks in my Will Rogers world too. And that's where this inspiration comes from. So one of the people we got to talk with, and catch up with is Tad. Tad Jones, the director of the Claremore-based Will Rogers Memorial and Museum. It's been there since 3 years after Will died and has been about to be added on to again. Busy time, juggling around, going to see people. We went over to Rogers, Arkansas, 2 hours from there, and I got to research some about Betty Rogers, Will's wife. Interesting person, the woman behind the man. Interesting gal for her time, and atypical in her family. Topic for another day, another audience, but just to say, you never stop learning things. Kind of amazing. And talking with Tad, the curator, we're having coffee. Come to find out, as we say back home, come to find out, Tad is a Star Trek fan. Promotion, marketing, properties, but he's been with the state for 10 years promoting Will, building coalitions. They passed a bond issue, got appropriation, doing a fundraiser to expand the museum, add a 3-story tower to it for extra exhibit space, updated offices that haven't been built or added onto since 1979. 1980, and an event center there to bring more, prestige and attention to Will, who sadly has been getting a lot of attention nationwide because of the fires out here. Also, the birthplace ranch was sold to the Cherokee Nation. Will was 1/8 Cherokee, and they're adding an event center that'll be more tribal focused, but still. And they're renovating the birthplace ranch. So a lot happening back there, even as we're kind of negative. But this morning, I find out that that Tad is a huge Trek fan, and he's wanting to grill me what I'm thinking about now. We're telling, and of course, Janet's with me, and she's got her Voyager years in firsthand, front row, all of mine, and we talk about Star Trek and the world and old and new for 30 minutes before we ever. Janet said, are we ever going to talk about Will Rogers this week? Or are we always going to talk about Star Trek all week long? I just was shocked. But then he got me. Didn't mean to. We were talking about the fires. And my better half looked at me and said, how's the Star Trek fence? Is the Star Trek fence, did it burn? And I'm like, what do you mean the Star Trek fence? And then I went, oh, you mean, and then I'm looking at Tad and hey, lifelong Trek fan, and his brother and his kids, sci-fi, yes, his brother especially, but no, talking about seeing movies, talking about moments and things. He said, what do you mean? I said, that they shot parts of Star Trek 4, the one with the whales, the Voyage Home, at the park, at Will's Polo Field in Santa Monica, in the Palisades. And his jaw dropped. I said, he's like, what? I go, wait, you've had this job for 12 years. You've been out to visit us. You did not know, you closet Trek fan, well, to me anyway, you did not know that the cloaked bird of prey, Jillian in her blue beat up pickup, dumping the guys off, that was not at Golden Gate Park. That was at the Polo Field because they ran out of shooting days at Golden Gate Park. Take a Trekland trek so we can go there. As soon as the park is opened again. I could not believe that Mr. Will Rogers and Mr. Closet Trek fan did not know about that. So to answer the question, yes, it's easy to rebuild fence, except it wasn't singed. I had to call up some Trek Core images and show him. He was flabbergasted. It was so much fun. And it was a great morning. Great day. The whole week has been great. The whole week was now a day earlier or 2 days earlier, as we came through Tulsa to get to Claremore, right off I-44, which is, an old 66. Oklahoma has more miles of original Route 66 to drive on, original mileage pavement, than any other state. And New Mexico has slightly more miles, but Oklahoma has more. Currently, you're able to drive on it miles. They have almost as much mileage as New Mexico to begin with, but they have more. If you're trying to be a purist and drive on the actual alignment, the actual pavement, there's more in Oklahoma than any other Route 66 states. Just so you know, just so you can plan your trip for next year. I know you're saying, Larry, I thought this was a Star Trek show. Hold on. Oklahoma has an excellent history museum. I've been a life member of, when they would do that, of the Oklahoma Historical Society. It's actually a historical society, unlike California's, I found out, that is in the state constitution. It's in law, and it has to be funded every year. Highs and lows, goes up and down, but it's funded and it's structurally part of the state. The State History Museum, the State History Center, which was the new edition, was built, 15, 20 years ago. There has been an offshoot idea for the past almost 15 years of what they call OK Pop, which is a they pull all the pop culture elements out of Oklahoma history and give it its own museum. And that's going to be not Oklahoma City, but in Tulsa, in the Arts District. Brand new building. What I didn't know is it's right across from the famous Cain's Ballroom, where Bob Wills and many other acts over the years since the 20s became famous. Bob Wills had 50,000 watt clear channel KVOO to become famous on. Bob Wills and his Texas, but Western swing, combined swing, big band swing, and country fiddles. Yeah. Um, right across is their brand new gleaming. It's going to be 3 years till they open. But the director, the second director, first one I'd met, got me to donate a lot of my things to there homies, a lot of early fandom pieces that tell the history now in retrospect of fandom roots in Oklahoma and how we, like other places, were doing things in the 70s before fandom came out of the closet, so to speak. But the second director, as of the last year or so, is a guy who had been number 2 at Will Rogers in the history. So he's a big Will Rogers fan, as well as history and museum management and Oak Pop, and telling the story of Oklahoma's musicians, not athletes, they have their own museum, but musicians and actors, movie stars. Brad Pitt was born in the same hospital as my wife, not the same day, 10 years apart. All kinds of wacky people. It's like every state's that way, though. You know, people, not every, the old joke about no one was born in LA, they all just wind up here. Or almost New York, same way. But among these dozens and dozens, here's Will. Here's lots of other folks, too. Lily Sloan. Alfre Woodard was born in Oklahoma, if you didn't know that. Lots of faces, names, and all these walks. But I'm talking to Jake again, Jake Crumweedy, who is now the director as they prepare to get open, get over the last of their fundraising and get opened. And I had remembered this, and for some reason it came up, and he is a huge Star Trek fan. In fact, he kept peppering me. He was apologizing for me not bringing his book to be signed, et cetera, et cetera. I had known that, and he reminded me. Tad totally dropped my jaw, right? Somewhere along the way, I think one of the ladies in Rogers, Arkansas's historical museum, where I wound up spending 4 hours, I think she was a Trek fan too. And as I'm sitting here getting ready for today and thinking about how there's a dearth of headlines, right? Not much to talk about. But every once in a while, the thing to talk about is right there in front of you. It's right there. And you all know that have been with me for a long time over the years. Every once in a while, when it's a little slow or when it's extremely busy or we see it on the horizon coming right at us, every once in a while, I've broached this. How are you going to evangelize for Star Trek? As we've been in a new era, and probably the pendulum keeps swinging on the new era, the legacy shows, the current shows that we both like and dislike, the things on the horizon, the things not on the horizon because we're all away. In all of that, what do you do to gain new fans for Trek? Are you evangelizing? Are you keeping your eyes open? Are you pulling your geeky friends in to make them more slanted towards Star Trek? Are you finding complete mundanes, as we used to say? You finding complete mundanes out there and getting them hooked? Are you doing your part? It's not my job to make that. That may be your attitude. Fine, I'm not gatekeeping, but it's always fun to find people and make them. I know there are a lot of people who have coupled. People find their significant other, or they interview their significant other potential. It's the application project, and they dance out there with the geekery. They dance out with the sci-fi and the gaming and whatever whatever your boat is, you're floating. And if it's Star Trek, at some point you bring Star Trek up. And sometimes you're surprised too. Sometimes you're surprised because they were secretly closet. Sometimes they're open to it. Sometimes they're like, oh no, I can't stand that stuff. Not the guy with the ears. And then you're watching in your space at your time. You're watching, and they walk through the room and get intrigued. They get intrigued, whether it's Anson Mount's hair, or it's Spock's original sexual, or they're watching Lower Decks and cracking up. Whatever it is, they think Patrick Stewart is sexy bald. Whatever it is, they're walking through the room and they fall for Ferengis and they love Armin and Max. Whatever it is, the wacky thing happens. But here's what I'm saying. I'm always asking, are you evangelizing for Trek? Are you going at it actively? Don't knock them down. Don't smother them. You're smothering me. Don't do that with Star Trek 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. But, are you doing your thing? This last week of traveling reminded me that sometimes you don't have to evangelize. Sometimes the Star Trek fans are right there under your nose. Sometimes they're right there when you least expect it. It sounds like Candid Camera. They're right there when you least expect it. Now, this particular week, the Venn diagram of Star Trek and Will Rogers kept crossing over. Of course, Terry Rio, that wrote DeForest Kelley's biography, she told me that years ago. She said, "Well, I totally get it that you're a Will Rogers fan." She said, "DeForest Kelley and McCoy are the Will Rogers of Star Trek." Oh, I'd never thought that. And as humanitarian and as diversity minded, we didn't have the buzzwords for it. But my God, Will was 1/8 Cherokee. He's blended culture. He grew up with black kids. Freedmen, slaves taught him how to rope. He was, as you know, and he carried that native heritage all through a time when it was not cool, unless you're in a cultured area where that was tourism or something. It was not a big deal to talk about ethnics, right? Everybody was trying to blend in and fit in. And the blacks were just on the outside. And we didn't even talk about the brown skinned folks, our Hispanic friends. Will did. Will Rogers ticks all the boxes for our modern sensibility. And so I guess it's not odd that the Venn diagram of Will fandom, but I always thought that was me. Now I'm looking around and I'm finding it must be an epidemic. But again, the other side of this coin is I'm always talking about, don't be fooled by online fandom being all fandom. Just like I'd say, don't be fooled by convention fandom and the different flavors of conventions. Is it Trek Vegas? Is it San Diego Comic-Con or a Comic-Con near you? Multi-flavored? Is it that? Is it your local regional, like SoonerCon? Was it one of the pro cons, like the creations, like the Galaxy Cons, or was it a fan? They all have a different flavor, and that's cool. I'm just saying, even with the diversity of conventions, that's not all fandom. But I've called armchair fandom now for, I guess, 20 years, ever since social media popped up and you had to realize that social media fandom was not all fandom, online fandom. Good old, we sit at home and we just watch the shows and enjoy them. And maybe I have one or two friends that I talk about it with. Now, that's where all fandom starts. And if you get the itch enough, you may start buying more books beyond just the novels. And you may buy more than just action figures, right? Assuming you can find them. And maybe you do still drag your kids in, or your nieces and nephews, or your grandkids, or even your mom and dad, or your uncle and aunt. You're evangelizing that way and keeping it in the family, and the family grows. But sometimes, beyond that armchair fandom still includes lots of silent Sams. You know what I mean? There may be people in your own, at work, at your church, where you eat, your favorite waiter or waitress, wait person, wait staffer. There may be somebody that you see every day, and you don't have to go sell them or lure them in, because they might already be. Especially, I'm going to just say this, especially if they tend to be happy and upbeat and outgoing and have a smile for everyone. Doesn't seem to be a, you know what? I'm not going to be political or even socialist. I'm social mind. I'm just going to say this way that I used to categorize people. Are they open-minded or are they closed-minded? And if they seem to be someone who is welcoming of all, what's that old line? You might just be a Trekkie if. I was triply shocked this week, over and over and over again, to be bopping around Oklahoma in some very nice climes and situations, I should say, and kept finding Trek fans where I least expected. Has that ever happened to you? Sometimes are you shocked when you come across A Trek fan just out in the open, out in the wild? Does it ever happen to you? And a lot of times when we're wearing something subtle, I never like the big screaming t-shirts. Now, cute ones, if I'm at a con or on the cruise now, all bets are off. Of course, of course. But just to go get the groceries or go to the post office or, run to a store, go out to a park with family, whatever I'm doing, traveling on a travel day, and you have something subtle on your cap, on your lapel, on your t-shirt chest, not the whole screaming t-shirt, but just something on the chest patch. And it's a lot of people like subtle. This is just a maquis, you know. This is just the Tal Shiar pin. This is just the Klingon trifoil or whatever you call it. This is just a UFP logo. A lot of people, you're in the checkout line and people the checker makes a comment about it. And you're like, oh, that happens, right? So somewhere on the scale of impact, the tiny little moment, the nod, the honk, somebody passes your car and they see your rearview mirror sticker, and they do you a mirror universe. I don't know. Those kind of passing moments, the kinds, or the bigger moments. Have we all had a moment like that? And do they pile up? Do they stack up and we take them for granted? I know. I'm just curious. All I'm saying is this week, it just kept happening and happening and happening. And of course, made me smile, made me confident for the future of this franchise. There's a lot of doom and glooming right now that maybe after the current 2 commissioned shows are done, that somewhere between the chaos of the turnover with who's going to finally own Paramount and be in the big boy chair or big girl chair to make decisions about Star Trek. Hopefully we won't go 11 years without small screen, but who knows right now? Maybe Ellison leans into movies, which would be a thing, but we don't get small screen adventures. We're back to waiting every 2 years for a 2-hour movie. Not sure what's going to happen. What's the future of the streaming situation anyway, right? All these things. And what does that mean for toys and games, animated series, you name it, go up and down the line. Even things like theme parks, right? Real live experiences. It's all up in the air, but the more we come across, Trek fans in real life, and we talk about it, and the zeitgeist is out there, the awareness is out there, and you do something with it even. Talk about it, write about it, point it out to fans. And yeah, you can evangelize them, but you're not having to evangelize them into Trek itself. Now you can point them to your favorite online Facebook group or local meetup group or podcast or live stream or YouTuber. Whatever your favorite books and magazines, whatever it is, they're already halfway there. You can bring them home. Or, you got to respect them. You can't gatekeep their lack of active fandom. They might want to just be armchair fans till the day they pass this mortal coil. Thank you, Neelix. And that's what you respect, of course. I'm just saying, it's so healthy for the future of the franchise for not everybody to be online and discouraged, or not everyone to be convention folks, because those armchair fans at home that have been there all along, or they've been there for years, and yeah, they're watching the new shows as well as the old. They still had their favorites. They had their favorites and lesser favorites amongst the new post-Discovery, just like they did over the years. DS9, yes, I love TNG, but I love DS9 a little more. I see it for what it is. I'm older now. I appreciate DS9 where I didn't before. That's a common thread. That's what Tad said. Anyway, it's just something to think about. I don't know if I'd say that it's a relief to know that this old franchise that we've loved, after 60 years, there's not a lot to compare to it. 60 years next year. 60 years if you count the Cage being shot last year. And Where No Man's anniversary this year. And the Selling Point coming, in the spring. It takes all kinds. It takes all kinds of fandom to support something that lasts that year. And the people you see online, the people you see at cons, are not the entire end all be all. The people like Jake and Tad's brother and Tad's kids who do not belong to a club or a Facebook group or podcast subscribe. Gang, 80% of people come to conventions that I found of all kinds still are not podcast people. It's exhausting to them, or they don't have a community, all the reasons. So we can't put our blinders on. We got to get out of our ruts. We got to keep our minds open. It's a shifting world. Brother, is it a shifting world? But Star Trek is not going anywhere anytime soon. And if we go back into a fallow time out of Paramount, we do have not just our tapes, we have our hard copy medium. And the appreciation of that is going back as the streaming places remind us that they're not the most stable all the time. The best thing to do is have that physical media on your shelf, and nobody can ever take it away from you. But yeah, recruit fandom whenever you can. We still need our numbers to grow for all things, merchandise, the power behind ratings and views and all of that. But sometimes wear the right little doodad, say the right word, say the magic word, you win a prize. And you might just find a Star Trek person that was there in the wild all along that you never expected. I can't wait to see if anybody has a story to share today. If you do, please do. And listen, if you're watching us later, not live, here on YouTube, I appreciate that. Leave a comment, tell your story, tell your experience, share your marker too, okay? And then maybe sometime you can join us at 1-ish Pacific on Tuesdays, 4-ish Eastern, every Tuesday, most every Tuesday. And you can join this conglomeration, but I appreciate everybody who's here live with us and everybody who's watching later. Don't forget, we have Super Chat where you can throw a little bit of silver here and help us with the costs, with everything else that's come of doing this. Now, I'm going to do what I really want to, what I obviously need to do. So the folks that really do help us out a lot, of course, that's our Patreon. So I want to thank all of our Patreon folks, our TTLers. Hey, Chuck A., James Kerwin, Diana Hopkins, Halberd Gunn Johnson, Lawrence Todd, Greg Wickstrom, Mitch Keith, Andrew Jazimski, Justin Weir, Josh Patton, Pranakasha Productions, Chris Jiggins, Keith Rombach, and Comedy Forecast. And our live wires, yes, indeed. That's Jesse Crusher, Crusher Convo. Jesse Crusher. I bet you wish it was Jesse Crusher, right? Chris Garris, Robert McLean, Byron Bailey, J.R. Poole, Gary Williams, James Durovich, Dave Gregory, Dan Leckie, and Casey Shafsky. Everybody, thanks so much for being one of those folks. One of our TTLers. It's my Patreon. You can do it. It's very simple. $5, $10 a month. Patreon.com/Trekland Live. I keep it simple for the shout outs. The $10 folk get the shout out and access to the earlier years of behind the scenes, guest nights, visual recordings. About the first 5 are audio only. That's how fast everything changed back in 2015. Coming up on our 10th year anniversary for Portal 47, we'll have our 10th anniversary open house, which will be free to the public this fall. I've got to nail down our guest. It's usually sometime in October, but keep aware of that. We open the doors and suddenly Portal 47 looks like everybody else's live stream guest podcast. But in the early days, that's how we financially structured it. So it's a gimme. It's a sample. Let you know. We also do a sample Ask Dr. Trek Roundtable too. We have the Portales are there. Lots of people. I think my record so far has been 60, but we can add plenty. We have somebody of note. Who was it last year? Was it the Hageman brothers last year, I think? Yeah. And of course, you're there. You can ask them questions live too. That's coming down the pike, so to speak. But thanks to all my Patreon folks. And listen, I've been self-peddling the Trek Files lately. This week's penultimate season 13 is, you know what penultimate means? Next to last. So episode 23 is up now, And you'll recognize this name, you TTLers, Adam Costco, Dr. Adam Costco. Excuse me, we're live. Dr. Adam Costco wrote his book, Late Star Trek. He's talking about analyzing Enterprise onward with a kind of a metric that he used to talk about the show and also the fandom in the world we're living in as far as the delivery. And he joins us for the Trek Files. The document of the week is, where is it? It's the press release for Discovery. And we use that to springboard into talking about Discovery. Yes, I know. The document of the week on Trek Files this week is something from this century. Go figure. No, we have a lot of fun. Ben Robinson, the last 2 weeks, oh my God, talking about roots of those early drafts behind Star Trek II and the polar bear genetically altered human. We had so much fun. And the original, the very first concept of Savick. And yeah, being half Romulan, half human, or half Vulcan. But even the version before that, the very first, where Savick was written with 2 S's because the small s was, well, you'll have to see. Check out the Trek Files if you would, please. And don't forget, we finally have a community space that's awesome. We use Discord. It's under the Roddenberry Mission Log Discord. For $1 a month, you can access all that, and you can be at our every other week Trekophiles Tonight live discussion for the Trekophiles of the week. I appreciate everybody here so much on Tuesdays. I love my Patreon, my Portal 47 folks, and my Patreoners too. But as part of the Roddenberry family, we have finally, the Trek Files has a family place, both as a message board spot and as a live meetup. We had it yesterday, every other Monday at 4 p.m. Just go join their Patreon for $1 a month, and you get all the Roddenberry shows, fan clubs online, and also a lot of fan one-off meetup groups too that aren't connected to a show. You'll just have to go check it out. I'm still exploring Discord, but it's a great way for our fans of that and the rest of the Roddenberry shows even to come over and check it out. I know we've got some Trekophiles Tonight folks here, and well, the whole thing, the 12 Trekophiles section on Discord, folks here as well as Portal 47ers too. Gang, the rest of the time, you know where you can find me. It's Larry Nemecek on Twitter X and on Blue Sky, and Larry Nemecek's Trekland on Facebook and Instagram, and portal47.net, kind of the old man of all this now. It feels weird to say. 2015. The only thing older than is my blog and website. Portal 47 for all the Trek fans who have no idea how much Star Trek they still have no idea about. We've had an amazing, never before done this way, 3-part visit with Rob Bowman. The Benson sisters from Prodigy season 1 are going to be our July guests. Just to say, you can join Portal anytime. Just had a special at SoonerCon. But you can go and join portal47.net and jump in and live dive with everybody. It's all backstage Trek and what it does for the shows. No actors allowed. We love them, but they get to talk everywhere else. These folks need their stories saved and their photos saved and their insights and the history that they bring to your awareness of Star Trek. So yeah, it's your backstage pass to more in-depth Trek, Portal 47. And of course, we'd love to see you on Trekland Trek's tour too. Everybody, that's going to do it here on YouTube, the archival version. Anyway, live folks, you hang on with me. You'll be here for the chat in just a second. If you are watching us only on YouTube later, again, jump into the comments here, leave a story, leave a comment. Who are the Trek fans that have shocked you in real life that you didn't have to recruit? They were already there. You just had to find the connection and get over yourself because you're shocked that they're a Trek fan. Hope everybody will share that. And as we say goodbye, we'll see you next Tuesday, of course. What is it Foreman Scott used to say? The good Lord willing, the creek don't rise. Yes. Hey, and until then, everybody, I know a lot of folks were at the Trek tour. Now, say the Trek tour is not location. The Trek tour are the stages recreated. James Cawley's licensed his fan sets turned into a set piece licensed. A lot of folks were up for that, having a good time last week. Well, I was in SoonerCon. We're into convention season. So I hope people, if you feel like sharing a story from there, from anywhere, please do. And or what you're excited for this summer too. We can talk about that too. Until next Tuesday, though, please, everybody, stay healthy, do all the things, stay woke, check the sources. Unfortunately, it's pretty thick out there and getting worse. And help, buckle in the folks next to you before you take your own oxygen mask, okay? Yeah. Basically, trek well, everybody.